So, welcome back to another episode of the What's Your Motive podcast. Today, I have a guest that we actually just met a few days ago, and we had a wonderful conversation. It's so wonderful to talk to like minded people, especially in terms of the care for teachers, the care for education, the passion. It seeps through her pores and her voice, her intonation, her enthusiasm. It just radiates right through the screen. We only met virtually, but it's just been wonderful to meet her. She's the founder and CEO of Teachers Deserve It. She's an author, a podcaster. She's also a TEDx speaker. Now that's a feat. And she used to actually teach at Illinois State University. Please welcome Rae Hughart.
Yeah, I'm so stoked that we get to officially be on a podcast together. This is
Yes.
bucket list. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so happy to have you on. And as like I was mentioning before, it's just been great to be able to have a conversation with someone that is kind of like-minded. And actually, you've been actually inspiring, especially the last couple of days. Like I've been like reinvigorated for some reason. But I've been like I told you, I've been raving about you. So I'm just happy to have you on. Happy to have you on.
Yeah, there's so many good conversations we've already had, but they will only continue. I'm so stoked. Anyone I can talk education with,
Yes.
impact with, I'm game. So this is a good start of a perfect journey.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. So just for the viewers, for the sake of the individuals that will be watching this, where are you from?
Yeah, hey everyone. My name's Rae Hughart. I'm currently in Chicago, Chicagoland area, not the city. I'm in the boring old burbs, but love it here. Kind of moved around a little bit and been here for the last 3-4 years, and it's just a good vibe. I don't have a reason to leave yet.
Got you, got you, got you. A lot going on in terms of it's a big area, there compared to Milwaukee and things like that. So have you lived there all of your life or?
I haven't. I started my parents lived in the north side of Chicago, the suburbs up there, the North Shore. And
Okay.
my sister and I grew up there. And then I actually moved to Bloomington Normal and I did my undergrad there. And then I loved it. I loved the community. I was growing into myself, getting to know myself. So I started my teaching journey there. I got my master's there. I went into the Hall of Fame at Illinois State there. I became a
Gotcha.
professor there, teaching there, all these fun things. And then just happenstance, life happened, and it was kind of time for the next chapter. So I moved randomly to the western suburbs. And it really was because I was selling my house and it was a good housing market. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to get rid of the house. And I had no idea where I wanted to go. So I was like, well, maybe I'll move as a stepping stone to finding where I want to go, and
Gotcha.
I haven't left.
Right. I mean, hey, we always find these journeys to be like, you know, um, kind of quirky in a way in how things work out, right? And look, you settled into a place in which you enjoy it, you love it after being somewhere for a while, right?
Yeah, I was there for 13 years. And
Yeah,
anywhere I live, I need to be close enough to the people I care about. And then obviously technology is a huge help. So it's a good
absolutely.
spot for me now. And when a journey takes me a different direction, I'll be excited to start then too.
Believe that. Absolutely, absolutely. So, for starters, how long have you been in education?
Gosh, that's a great question. I taught for a better part of a decade and then now in the educator support space for, I don't know, maybe 5+ years. So I guess maybe, I don't know, 15 years plus. I could do the math. I really could
Right.
break it down.
Hey, it's been a long time. We can just say that, right?
Yeah, it's been a bit. It's been a minute.
Got you, got you, got you. It's been a minute. You've definitely provided your due diligence and everything. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
when did you decide that you wanted to be an educator or be in education? Like, was this a dream of yours as a little girl, or like how did this all evolve? Because my experience is totally different. Like, I was in healthcare, and then I ended
Really? Oh my gosh, I didn't even know that. I need to listen to your background more.
yeah. Well, how did you get into it?
This was not a dream that I was accomplishing at all. I grew up SLD in reading, writing, and math, so I hated school. It was my least favorite place on the planet. I was the kid that you didn't want in your classroom because late after the bell rang, my mom would be like pulling me into the school by my ear to like get into school. And I'd be kicking and screaming like a terrible kid. Um, but but I did have a saving grace, which was I was in dance class. Like my parents threw me in dance class. It was kind of fun. It was athletic. And the lead ballet instructor, who was the owner of the studio, asked me if I wanted to teach a little ballet class. And at the time, it was like, oh my God, someone believes in me. Like, I was so stoked. And so, honestly, I was working all through high school, loving. I was there 7 days a week. I had a key to the studio. I was obsessed. I ended up teaching all different types of students, essentially like teeny tiny babies, like 2-year-olds, all the way to, post high school doing different dance classes. And I really decided, I'm like, honestly, I like teaching. And so I wanted to go into teaching dance. My parents said no, but if I got a teaching degree, then I could then go teach dance without their say so. So I got into education because I wanted to be a full-time dance teacher. And I loved the students I loved the most were middle school aged students. So that's how I picked my, like, focus.
Got you. And
Yeah.
isn't that, like, interesting how someone, like you said, someone actually believed in me to be like, "Why don't you come teach these courses?" And for you to end up being like, "You know what? Like, I appreciate that." And then you go full-fledged into it, and then full circle, you become a teacher inspiring students. Like, how big is that to have an influence like that?
Enormous. Laverne Lehman was somebody
Mhm.
that I learned from my entire life, obviously, as the lead of the studio. She is the reason I started to build confidence and crave that, like, avenue of success because I wasn't getting it, I felt like, in other places in my life. I wrote my college essays on Laverne Lehman. I mean, she is the woman that I had a lot of great role models, but she's the one that, like, knew how to get all the way there to help me see what I could enjoy. And, obviously I've grown from there and I've had so
Right.
many amazing mentors, but she was a big one. She's a big one.
Yes. And it's funny because you can always pinpoint that one person, that one teacher, or a few different individuals that truly like sparked you and you remember, especially from an educational standpoint, right? Like you remember those people and just think about it like how many students you've been able to influence, impact. Like, how does that make you feel? Humbly. I know you don't really want to celebrate that, but just recognizing like you've been in a position to influence and impact so many other students that they may even grow up to become teachers.
Yeah, I love that, you know, that impact. I think educators, we don't get to see that as often as we deserve to. And a big part of what I did in my career when I was teaching, but also I get to do professional development on now, is working with teachers to show the direct connection between content and purpose
Yes.
by bringing in sponsors, local organizations to kind of show the application of their teaching. And what I
Gotcha.
love about this is it usually ends every unit with the student getting some sort of business card from somebody they worked with in that
Whoa.
organization in hopes that then that becomes a contact, maybe even 10 years later for a job or an internship. And those little moments have
Mhm.
helped me stay a little better connected to the students and the impact because they've ended up getting internships. I mean, 6, 7, 8 years later that I
Right.
get to hear about because the contact that I made, I kept in contact with. And so they were like, oh my God, you won't believe we just hired Jessica, which I'm pretty sure she was in your 6th grade math class. I'm like, yes, like I love that stuff. If there's any way, that's a technology that needs to be like created for the teacher vibe. Maybe we'll start that, but we need to better connect our teachers with like the fruits of their labor.
Yes, absolutely. And just even being, brave enough to be like, you know what, I need to bring in these individuals from outside in the community to the classroom to help these kids understand the power of relationships, right? And networking at such an early age.
Well, and I think it's so unfortunate. I came from a really successful family. My parents are multi-million dollar business owners, incredibly successful. My sister is a stinking doctor. Like, I hate them, but I really wanted to find a way to like, what did success look like for me? Because I was not going to become a doctor, and like the concept of driving into the city for like a desk job sounds terrible. But it's
I
so
hear you.
interesting. Yeah, right. It's so interesting how we can kind of find success in so many different ways. And for me, the gap that I saw that I first started to get a passion for, obviously now as an educator, I have a passion for so many lame things in our profession, but was trying to bring the real world into the classroom. Like if you didn't have your parents hosting cocktail parties at your house like I did, where you had to pick up coats and learn small talk and remember the spouse's name when they walk in, then when are you exposed to it? You're only exposed to it when you're too old, right?
And you're trying to figure out life.
Right. So can we expose our students to organic ways to have those conversations? I mean, people joke about like learning a handshake. I will tell you, not to like toot my own horn here, but like I give a handshake and 90% of the time somebody compliments my handshake. I'm like, dude, that's a feel good. I'm doing something right. But when do you learn that? If not when you're like 25, you got to
No,
teach them young.
right. And as I'm listening to you, Ray, like for you to, like you said, you've been in those situations early on, like you said, the cocktail things, learning how to handshake, developing those soft skills that a lot of our students have to kind of like learn elsewhere or learn too late. You were able to help them with that. And for you to recognize that speaks volumes. I'll tell you that. And it shows that you're such a servant leader and you seek to serve others and help others, especially young children. Earlier exposure is better, right? So when we think about, oh my gosh, we're going off track here. So when we think about teachers, right,
Yes.
and professional development, and we've talked about this before about when teachers go through the academic piece when they go to college and things like what they're taught, right? They're taught the academia piece, how to structure it, how to write a TPA, and all these other things, right? But how important is it for teachers to know? Yes, you teach the academia, but you're also responsible for the social aspects. So those soft skills and things that you have, being able to relate things to what they're going to potentially see in the real world.
I will tell you, I believe that educators feel the responsibility to do a lot. I think the disconnect is trying to find a way to do it that's sustainable and that
Right.
feels organic. I wasn't against taking my mini lesson time to teach the skill of networking, but it kind of feels isolated. It's like, hold on,
Mhm.
kids, let's talk about, how important eyebrows are when you're having communication and how different uses of your facial structure can actually
Yes.
truly impact the tone of your voice. Okay, stop now. Take out your textbooks, like work on math. Like my
Right.
issue is trying to find a way that it could be organic for teachers where students come in, for example, for an internship at in a managerial position at a pizza pub, and the first thing that they really need to do is not only how to map the floor really effectively so that every day can start clean, but also how to total a bill when they have a coupon, right? So
Right.
it's not really any extra effort. It's just a reframing of the content. And I love helping educators with lots of things, but that's something that is just really personal to me.
Right. And that speaks to, and we're going to get into that, but also, like you said, it being sustainable for teachers, right? So obviously them being able to take care of themselves, but also what about teacher autonomy, right? Um, I don't know how it's, been done in Illinois and things like that, but here in Milwaukee and Wisconsin, for the most part, it's very, how can I be gracious? Some of the teaching has become canned and extremely scripted, which doesn't allow a lot of diversity of the and a personality to come through in the teaching. It's 30 minutes this, ding, on to the next thing, ding. So you don't have time, like you said, to infuse and utilize a mini lesson to talk about how do we, how should we be looking when we're talking to somebody in an interview? Do we look at their ear? You know what I mean? To make it seem like we're looking, the nodding and affirmation, those simple things, like, what do you think about that? Like, the autonomy of the teacher to be able to do some of these things.
I this might be an unpopular opinion, so take this with a grain of salt, but
Absolutely.
I do believe that those programs are coming from a good place, and it's because they're fearful that educators aren't able to do their job successfully.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, maybe we're not proving that we can do our job successfully. And maybe
Mhm.
there are educators out there not doing their job successfully.
This is
For
true.
me, rather than creating the can system that then stifles educators' creativity when they are capable of doing really good work, I'd rather provide more efficient and effective strategies for educators to start thriving in this system. And I think, though, that when we work with educators in that way, the canned content has the opportunity to go away because the fear goes away. I
Thank
don't
you.
know that we speak enough when we're being critical of education to the fear that caused that to happen. And
Yes.
so when we're able to kind of have conversations with leaderships
Mhm.
or certain people making those mandates, I think it starts with an element of understanding and then
Yes.
it needs to percolate all the way into consistent training that has reliable outcomes that
Yeah.
creates routines because educators can't be successful if they're constantly juggling 16,000
Mhm.
plates, but they can be successful if they have like 2 or 3 that they have to keep spinning and everything else is working like automatically
Exactly.
because of what they've set up. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, absolutely. I think it's something that we're trying to figure out a balance for, right? And like you
Yeah.
said, you wanna make sure that the teachers that are in front of the students are proficient and competent, right? Enough to do it. We wanna ensure, like you said, that fear is actually true. Because we've seen in the news about some teachers not being certified in classrooms and, and other things happening. And you look at, it's so many things. So yes, I truly believe in it. I think it's a nice balance that needs to be kind of figured out, right? Like where we have this system, but you have your autonomy, but as long as you're bringing it and combining it, some of that fear can be alleviated and we can ensure that our students are getting the best instruction.
Yeah, and being prepared to have those conversations without getting defensive. I truly find that people mean well, and we need to have people having the difficult
Mhm.
conversations, really reaffirming that the fear is something that we are worried about, that we have solutions to, and then we need to put those practices in place. And thankfully, I get to do that day to day in my job.
Mhm.
But it just takes one. You got to take them one at a time. To one.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I like that you said that, like, embrace the dissonance. Don't take it personal. We all mean well, right?
I
And let's
truly believe that. I don't meet many educators that at their core
Mhm.
don't mean well. If
Right.
you ever hear an educator not meaning well, it's typically out of fear or burnout, and it's really never anything else, ever. Like, it's
Absolutely.
literally that they're exhausted and cannot intake what you're communicating, or they're terrified. Like, that's
Right,
it.
right. I agree, I agree, I agree. Whew, and that's a topic we could talk over for hours. So
Forever.
moving right along, so teachers deserve it. Tell us about the inception of that and the Teach Further model.
Yeah, so Teachers Deserve It is an incredible movement. I would encourage all of you that are listening to come join the movement, but it's all about educators finally having a clean space for efficient and effective practices in teeny tiny bite-sized pieces. So this movement was recently started just at the beginning of this year. We brought in a lot of different voices, a lot of different people to begin to truly find the strategies that we not only think work, but that actually work. Everything's research supported, but it's also, created by teachers for teachers. So we're looking at
Mhm.
silly little things like when you do a student conference, did you know that if you stand up, you can be 33% more efficient and effective? Well, that's so easy. The only tweak you need to do now is when you're
Yes.
conferencing with a student, make sure you're standing, both of you and the student. And those little tweaks, when we can save half a minute here and a minute over here, really allows us to start taking care of ourselves. It helps teacher retention. It helps
Mhm.
substitutes entering into our building and everything else. So it's so fun to be a part of this movement that truly is about getting the good, simple ideas into teachers' hands and not needing to overhaul what you're already doing to be able to find success. Because no educators listening to this podcast who isn't already awesome. We
Right.
just want to help you feel awesome while you're being awesome, right?
Absolutely. Increase the awesomeness, right?
Absolutely.
Increase the awesome and decrease some of the stress, right?
Yes,
Like that
right,
inverse.
because yeah, a healthy teacher, if you're stressed beyond belief, it's just not sustainable. So we wonder why teachers are leaving the
Mhm.
field, or we wonder why teachers are getting so ill. And it's like, well, they're working 16-hour days, and then people just yell at them all the time. Like, of course
Oh,
they're burned out. What the hell?
right. Or they're, subjected to a PD on a Friday afternoon.
Oof. And it's a PD on a Friday afternoon that only adds to their to-do list. Don't you love the PDs where you sit and somebody tells you what you're not doing and what you should do, and then gives you a to-do list, and then the bell rings, they're like, "Good luck doing that on your Saturday morning over coffee." Like,
Right.
yeah, we
And
have to find ways to give teachers professional development that they can put into place without needing to spend more time on it.
absolutely. So even just thinking about PDs, like, what do you think they should look like? Because I think they should be like a dynamic, like a discourse, a dialogue where we're not insulting their intelligence, but we're actually allowing them to come in and like, let's talk about this. Like, what are your
Yes.
thoughts?
You know, one of the chapters of the book that then inspired Teachers Deserve It, a book that came out in 2020 that I wrote with Adam Welcome, was called Teachers Deserve It. That's kind of where we got this name. And one of the chapters is called Teachers Deserve Respect. And every chapter is structured super similarly, where we talk about, yes, you deserve this, but then we talk about why you don't have it and what steps you can put in place right now to get it. And when you talk about, professional development, how do we respect the educator's intelligence? It really comes down to the fact that whether we like to talk about it or not, educators are some of the most educated people out there.
Well,
We have to
right.
do like
Yeah.
180 professional development hours every 4 to 5 years. Most of us have master's degrees. Almost all of us have an undergrad in a specialty. Like, you know so much more than you're being celebrated. And the reason I think that people don't know that is because we don't tell them. And so professional development needs to look like professional development that adults would want. Sometimes we treat teachers like children. It needs to be engaging, it needs to be action focused. There needs to be KPIs, there needs to be like problem solving,
Yes.
and there needs to be discussion and trial and error and follow up, right?
Right.
So there's so many things that we need to do better as educators. And while professional development is tied into it, if you're an educator right now and your bachelor's degree is not hanging in your classroom, I'd ask you why. Or if your master's degree is not hanging in your classroom, I'd ask you why. Or if you have like a Google certification, or if you won an award at when you were playing football in middle school, like, that trophy should be in your classroom. Like, celebrate these accomplishments you've had. You're not just somebody who lives in your classroom.
That's interesting, man. I think about that though. Like, even when I was a teacher, I didn't hang up anything. And it
Nothing.
like I think it's okay to champion yourself, right?
Well, and it's okay to say, like, I did something cool. Like, wouldn't you want the flip of that I usually have with teachers is, wouldn't you want your student to do that? If your student won an award yesterday and didn't tell you that week, wouldn't you be kind of bummed? Like,
I'll be
damn, why did
disappointed. I'll be disappointed.
yeah, like, why didn't John tell me that he like he made a touchdown? Like, that's so cool. I want to celebrate him. But like, why don't we also want to emphasize the celebrations we've had? I worked hard for my
Hmm.
master's degree. I got into my university's Hall of Fame as a young inductee, and it is literally a plaque, and I have my face in the university forever in the Hall of Fame, and the plaque is in my drawer. Like, why? That's ridiculous, right? Like, it's a cool accomplishment. Hang it up.
I never thought about that. I never thought about that because I think when we dove into, like, becoming an educator, you think, "I gotta be selfless. I gotta give to these kids. I give myself." And you kinda lose yourself in that, in the fact that, like, you put all these hours in writing papers, creating, doing dissertation, just all of these things that you've done, but it's like, "Okay, I did that just so I can be here for you." And it's like you lose yourself, and I think that attributes to the burnout.
Well, and I will tell you, one of my biggest fears when I was teaching was parent communication, because parents just yell and they scare the bejeebers out of me. And how nice would it be when you sit down for your, whatever it is, parent teacher conferences or whatever, you grab it, you're always sitting in those kiddie chairs, depending on your age level and all
Right.
that. And the parents have a few seconds before you get started to look around, and they see undergraduate degree, a Bachelor of Science, and they see master's degree in
Uh,
curriculum and development, and they see Google certified, Apple
mhm.
distinguished educator. Like, that actually also sets a tone for the conversation, and you don't have to say anything.
Right.
Nothing, you know?
It speaks for itself, right? And it actually kinda, add some credence to what you do, right?
Yes.
Parents are extremely skeptical of who's in front of their kids, right? So if I can plaster that and let you know, that's just yeah, that's my background back there. It kind of can alleviate some of that apprehension that they may have or the question, sometimes they bombard you with questions like, okay, well, what are you, so
Yeah.
we're an advocate for
Parents
teachers and I love that.
Yeah, parents wanna believe that their, kid's taken care of, and what better way to start that off than to be like, "Yeah, I'm the coolest, most educated person ever. I'm so excited to have your kid in my classroom." You know?
Teachers need to know that. Celebrate yourself, teachers. Please celebrate yourself.
And if
Champion your
you don't wanna, like, shout it from the rooftops, then do it subtly, like putting degrees out or, in your email signature. Like, feel free to add in, like, master's degree in curriculum instruction 18, whenever it was. Like, it doesn't need to be bold in your face, "I'm
right.
amazing." Like, that's not everyone's vibe, it's not my vibe, but,
No, for sure, for sure.
feels good.
Right. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And so when we're thinking about the teachers and, all the things they have to do, right? What are your thoughts on teachers taking their work home?
Oh my
Um,
gosh, we talked prior to this podcast
Yes,
recording, and I told you I didn't like this topic. Okay, I will admit, I am viscerally against teachers taking work home unless there is creative juices, a creative project that you're working on, and you are eager and wanting to work on it at home after you've had a warm meal, you've hugged your loved ones, you took a dog on the walk, and maybe you're
right.
sipping your glass of rosé and you
You're
wanna
right.
work creative project, so be it. But
Right.
educators taking papers home to grade, edges like, the I am you can't. But I say that knowing that no teacher's doing it right now without
Right.
believing they have to. And so when we're talking about teachers taking things home, my first response is, we got to get you some ways to save time so that those activities are happening in the school day. Because I
Absolutely.
do not believe that there's an educator taking papers home who has the time in the school day and is like, nah, I'd rather work an extra two unpaid hours at home. Like,
Right.
like it's just not a thing.
Right. And so you taught middle school. That was your sweet spot, right?
Yeah, middle
Middle school to
school,
middle.
math. Yeah, and then I taught, like, science, reading, and writing too, but math was, like, right this place.
Right, the middle school is a sweet spot, that was my sweet spot as well. When did you feel like you actually got your rhythm as a teacher? And you were like, "Yeah, I don't need to take this home. I'm gonna do it this way. This is how I'm running my room. This is how I set up my classroom community." When did you feel like you got that rhythm?
Now for a while, but I will say it takes, like, little learning curves here and there that built me to that spot, right? It wasn't like 1 year I found the tool and it shifted, but my first year teaching, I taught in a teeny, teeny small town. It was, like, 96% low income. I had a cat at home, and I was overjoyed to be, like, a workaholic teacher. Like, I was, like, there before the sun went up, and I left when the sun went
What?
down. And I was vibing with it. Like, I
Right,
loved
you're
it.
right.
It was great, but
Right,
I learned a lot that year, and what I think I learned the most was, like, I can love what I'm doing, but now I need balance. So then, obviously, I ended up switching schools. I started actually working in a school that had a lot of really smart teachers, like, a lot of them. I knew like, I went there for the mentors, literally. I was like, "I know this
literally,
building, those are good teachers." And that's when I started learning the foundational component of, like, standard alignment and, giving personalized feedback and whatever. So I felt like I got these building blocks of like, okay, I love my job. Okay, I'm going to make sure everything's foundationally sound. I was still completely overwhelmed until I got into learning structure of mastery learning to find ways to give personalized feedback, grade papers, like teach dynamically all during the workday. So it probably didn't happen until year 5, I think, is when I started diving into mastery learning. Yeah, I think that's
same
kinda where
here, year 4 or 5. And then when we think about teachers, you deserve it. Like, was there something that sparked you to wanna write the book and actually put on this movement? What was the spark? What was the reason behind it?
Yeah, do you want the fake story or, like, the real
Give
story?
me the real deal, the real deal.
The real deal, guys. Here's the real deal here on the pod. Spoiler. Yeah, so there was a book out there called Kids Deserve It. It was written by Todd Neslony and Adam Welcome. Super good book, really good for a book study if any of you are looking for it. And it like took off. Like it was like a bestseller. It was amazing. And everyone was quoting it. It was like it was awesome. But it didn't necessarily hit on everything it could have hit on. And you know, the authors being great people, by the way, Todd and Adam, I know, you know, personally, amazing authors. It wasn't that teachers deserve or that kids deserve all these things despite their teacher, right? Like we don't want teachers to struggle because kids deserve whatever.
Right.
So I was sitting with Adam Welcome at a dinner in Schaumburg, Illinois, that I was 2 hours late to, by the way. So I was like butterflies in my stomach. I'm meeting somebody who I like greatly admire, who I see as like celebrity famous, and I show up 2 hours late because of traffic. So I was already frazzled. And
Right.
he leans over and he goes, "Hey, so I'm thinking about writing a second book." I was like, "That sounds great. You should." Maybe it was his third book. Who knows? He has so many books out there.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, "Cool, dude. Like, go crazy." And he's like, "I think I'm gonna call it Teachers Deserve It." I was like, "Oh, yeah, it'd be like a sequel. The kids deserve it." And he's like, "Yeah, I don't really have a structure. I don't really know what I want the book to be about, but that's like the title I know I want." I was like, "Killer, bro. Like, go crazy. I can't wait to buy the book." And he's like,
Right.
"Would you consider co-authoring it with me?" And I was like laughing. I was like, "Oh, yeah. How many teachers did you have to ask that to?" Like, well, I'm one of 70, right, that are going to
Right.
co-author, but or like everyone else said no. And he's like, "No, no, no, just you. I want you to write this book with me." And I was like, uh, I'm I'm flattered, but I'm like really not interested. So thanks, but no."
Right.
And he was like, "Why?" And I was like, "I hate the concept of teachers deserve it. I don't like the term deserve. It sounds like a complaining book to me. It sounds
Yes.
like we're gonna be like administrators suck and you know teachers deserve like that's what it sounded like. I was
Got
like,
you. Got you.
not my vibe,
Mhm.
not my brand. And he was like, "Well, if that's what it sounds like, fix it. Like make it so that's not what it is." I was like, "Okay." So he wrote the book, came out, it was amazing, came out during COVID, which was crazy. And it was awesome to see teachers use it as an empowerment book, but, you know, kind of like bringing teachers back to owning their future. And then we did nothing with it for like 5 years. And now we have a whole movement. And, you know, I'm so honored that one conversation at a conference with, you know, edu celebrity Adam Welcome leads to a a movement for educators to see that they can take control of their narrative.
Right. Which is extremely important, especially like you said, I mean, during COVID, before COVID, and especially post COVID. Right. Like, so this movement is just, if it's not right on time, it's right on the money. You know what I mean? Because like when you think about the teachers over these last couple of years, it's just been complete. Think about it, it's been hard to even find teachers.
I know. We have to fix our field. Like, I don't know, I know people are talking about it, but, like, what's the plan? And
Oh,
the things out there about needing to overhaul what is happening in the classroom is just not true. It's not.
right. I think they're trying to do a lot of, I know here it's been a lot of incentivizing and bonus money, but then it's like, okay, if we get these people in here for the incentive, are they really doing it for the overall purpose of educating these kids, but also being able to be a wholesome teacher for themselves, right?
Well, and incentivizing is great, I guess, if it sparks interest. But for me, if we're not teaching educators how to adjust their practices to be sustainable, then it's this like ever turning wheel, right? Like we
Right.
can't fix a system by doing the same thing and expecting a different result.
Right.
So finding those efficient and effective strategies to like automate your email and make your student conversations more efficient and effective and quicker and you know like using different resources and differentiating so you can have personalized learning but not have it be a 15-hour planning period is all
It's
things
great.
that help us save time. Yeah.
Right, right. And I know you offer a lot of like different like workshops and different memberships and things on your website for teachers, a lot of tools and strategies they can use and equip. And I think I've seen on one of them, which I love, is the fact that you are a advocate for project-based learning
Oh my god, I
for
love it.
students. I think that alleviates some pressure off of the teacher as well because you place the education in the student's hands. You facilitate, but they're in charge of it.
I think that's where educators should be at 99% of their day. If you are not facilitating learning and
Right.
you are taking on a role where you're just like communicating knowledge, you are set up for burnout. Just be aware. Like you did not do all that undergrad work, all that master's work, all those certifications to be a content delivery system. Like, no offense, but YouTube does it better, right? Like there are ways to get information to students. The step that's actually the teaching part is the feedback, the questioning, the conversations, the interaction. And project-based learning is a great tool for that. Mastery learning is amazing for that. I mean, there's so many ways to do it. The struggle is, are you an educator that's going to learn how to do it? And that really comes into our learning hub where, we have those bite-sized little tips and tricks for educators whenever they're ready. They're all really targeted. Like we don't want to waste anyone's time, all that good
Right.
stuff.
Right. That's so true because I think if the educator is willing to learn how to utilize those things, they can really become effective teachers for sure. And I prided myself on not burning out. I did not take things home as a teacher. I tell you that. I enjoyed it. In 2016, I was every day I wanted to be at school. You know what I mean? But like you said, like the third, fourth year is when you kind of fifth year, you start kind of like getting your groove. So absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, we have those courses, which is a good starting spot for educators if anyone's interested. But I have to say, one of my favorite things is our school packages where we come in and we do kind of like an audit of what's going on in the building. We recommend certain skills to certain teachers. Again, personalized learning, like why are you giving a teacher an assignment that they're already a master in? Like, let's get them only the professional development they need on a small scale. And then the follow-ups. I
Well,
love, like, walking into a room, seeing a teacher be baller, like, writing quotes that they can put in their evaluation to be like, "You did this so well. I saw this. Here's all this evidence for you. Copy and paste this so it's done for you." But
mhm,
then also you have, like, 1 to 2 tweaks, like, "Hey, did you notice that because you did this, this happened? How can we adjust that super slightly? If you took 1
mhm,
step to the right, that wouldn't have happened." And like, that's where we can get into those, like, super tiny, teeny ways to be more efficient and effective, and I love doing that on a personal scale because we
right.
can't always see what we're doing, so sometimes it's nice to have somebody come in and be like, "Hey, did you know that if you walked this way around your room, you would have passed, like, 15 problems and been able to solve all the" like, it's just weird, you
You know
know?
what? But the one thing I like about that evaluation and that audit is the fact that you shower them with plaudits, right? You
Yeah.
shower them with praise. And when we think about teacher evaluations, a lot of teachers kind of like freeze up when they know someone's coming in to observe. But if you come in with the right, type of vibe, they can understand it. And then you go back and be like, hey, but these two little things here, like if you would have did this or you would have circumvented the room in this way, you may have gotten this reaction versus that reaction.
Yeah, as much as I believe educators need personalized feedback on ways to grow, they also need personalized feedback on things they're doing well. Like teachers
Yes.
can't see how many things they do well. And then they're put in a system where they need to produce evidence that they're like doing something in their classroom at the end of the year, which by the way takes stinking hours to
Oh
do.
my gosh.
And you have to like sing your praises, which is not what educators naturally do. Like I want to come into a classroom, which is what we do, which is why I love it
Right.
being the boss. Um, I go in a teacher's classroom and I'm like, I'm gonna literally write down 50 things I saw that you are doing well. And
Yes.
then I'm gonna ask you why you're conferencing in the middle of the room rather than the side of the room. And we'll have a quick conversation and then we're good to go. Like that's what you need to like not be blind to the areas of growth, but also not be blind to the areas of success.
Oh my gosh. Obviously, I got one more question, but let's stay here really quickly.
Okay.
Do you under oh my gosh. Like, that's how I envision and that's how I kind of, did my evaluations. We were told to do them a little bit differently, where it's, like, more punitive, but I refuse to go into a classroom as an administrator and look at a teacher and bombard them with negative remarks. I wanted to celebrate them for what they were doing, what I did see from the students as they reacted to the instruction, and then pose, like you said, one or two things like, hey, let's work on these two things. You know what I mean? Like, do you have any understanding as to why the evaluative process was like that, or has, or still is in some cases? In many
Yeah,
cases.
it is, yeah, so common. I think it's a mixture of a few different things, and it kinda goes back to what we were discussing before. First off, I think it's fear-based. I think that education as a whole, as a system, as an ecosystem, feels like they're on a hamster wheel where we gotta give people feedback. You only get to do it during this amount of time throughout the year. It's
Yes.
minuscule, and so you better figure out what's going wrong, and you better give feedback to fix it. Like, that's essentially, I think, the
Yeah.
mindset. We don't give feedback to teachers, like, we know the research says people will hear feedback, which is, like, funny to me, and
Mhm.
so, I think it's fear-based, I think it's an unknown, I also think it's an afterthought, and I would love if we had an acknowledgement over the fact that, like, you don't need to be an expert in everything. I for sure am not. I don't wanna
Neither.
be. I'm like yeah, my philosophy is like, I always got a guy, right? Like, I don't know how to do that, but
Yes.
I got a guy, right?
What a resource. I look at resource. Yeah.
Always, always, and I think it's a little bit interesting when I look at people who are giving feedback for a profession, right? A principal who for a certain amount of weeks is gonna go in and give feedback. It can't be an afterthought. That's the job, and how do you do it well? Well, let's get you training on that, right? So, it can't just be this, like, afterthought of thing you have to do, otherwise you're not
Mhm.
gonna do it well. That just makes sense, you know? So
Absolutely. Yeah. And like you said, the positivity and the advantages of giving feedback. Like you said, research says, even giving it to it in passing, sometimes our administrators, and this is no knock on them, but sometimes administrators become so far removed from the classroom and removed from what the frontline teachers are doing that you forget that. And I prided myself on not doing that, like trying to be there and remember what it was like, right?
course, but we also do the same to administrators. Administrators never hear how good they're doing. Administrators never get the sandwich of positive
Yes.
comment, area of growth, and then positive comment. Like we this is what I'm saying. This is an
Yes.
intrinsic system that we need to all take, 1% better every single day. And our administrators, I literally just made a TikTok literally before we did this recording. And it's so weird because I just posted it. I was like, your principal doesn't want you to fail. They just have no idea how to help you. Like, there is no principal I have ever met. I have never met an administrator that does not want happy students and teachers.
Right.
But they just are so overwhelmed. They're overworked. They're
Mhm.
overpaid. By the way, teachers out there, your principal is being underpaid. And like they need
Mhm.
support too. And that's
Right.
okay. But we have to get that for them as well. So they can go take the learning hub.
No, hey, you're right, and we wanna make sure we plug. We have to plug that today. The Teacher You Deserve It, and all the hubs and things that you have on your website for sure, because that is a key piece. The administrators do want you to do well, and they just need to be taught how to.
Right.
It's beyond just a treat cart. It's beyond just a party or a pizza. You know what I'm saying? In regards to trying to keep you happy, it is the affirmations, but they need them as well.
Yes, they do. I don't know many schools that make sure they have the popcorn cart for the principal as well. We have to
Oh,
find that
no.
balance, and I don't know
Um,
when the podcast episode's coming out, but, if you can let me do a little spoiler, we sent an email out to our whole Teachers Deserve It community on our email list, and we asked what our February bundle should be. We launch
mhm.
essentially course bundles every month. And so the first one was teachers deserve their time back. And that was like 5 courses, all on
Huge.
different areas of like how to save time. And then the next month, this February, we were like, what kind of bundle do you want? Like, what are you thinking? And literally, I kid you not, because I counted, it was like 45% teachers deserve creativity and 55% teachers deserve leadership. And those are two different bundles, right? There's like 5 courses in each. But it was like split down the middle. So we're launching both. So we'll have an administrator
Lord.
leadership like bundle, teachers deserve strong leadership. And we'll also have our teachers deserve creativity, which is on a
Yes.
lot of what we've talked about, like themes in the classroom, funding in the classroom. It's just gonna be so fun. But I'm like, man, it was kind of like when you ask your students something and they give you an answer where you're like, bummer, that wasn't the answer I wanted you to choose.
Right. That wasn't what I was looking for. But
No, I was like,
we'll make
yeah,
it work though, right?
yeah. So I'm
Yeah,
so super excited. That's like something we haven't released yet, but I'm so stoked for our community to see that the course they wanted came out, like their bundle. So it'll be really fun.
got you. Got you. Hey, but you need that input, right? We appreciate that input from them, right?
Yeah, except I'm gonna learn in March. I'm not asking because we can't release double bundles every
Nah, you gotta be sustainable, right? Gotta be
Yeah,
sustainable.
because I didn't know we were gonna put out like I think it's 8 courses total in these bundles, like total. I was like, oh my God, we can't this is not sustainable. We can't do 8 courses every month.
I
But
know. Well,
but we'll see. Next month maybe we'll have 1 bundle. Who knows?
you're right. You never know. You never know. They may sway it differently.
Yeah.
So the final question of the pie would be drum roll.
Yeah, right.
What's your motives? What's your motives?
My motive. Is there a right answer to that?
Yeah.
What's your motive?
My motive for
Yeah.
the podcast.
Well, sure, or just the work you do in general.
So my motive for the work I do in general, I believe in being intrinsically motivated to not only become a better person for myself in terms of like being well-rounded, understanding different people, and being able to pool and resource people together for the betterment of other individuals. So like in being introduced to you affords me to become better within myself because you have so much knowledge. I'm willing to learn, but I'm also willing to pass on that actual information that I have, for
Mm.
other people, especially for the kids, right? Especially for the young ones. It's easier to build up these children nowadays, you know what I mean, at a younger age. So that's one of my biggest motives is just being able to help other people through some of the knowledge that I learned, some of the resources that I have, some of the connections and relationships that I build and be able to put that out there for other people.
That's so good. Okay, I'm gonna steal yours and
No, that's totally
okay,
fine.
like, yes, that, pretend I said that, but also, in addition to that, I think one of my big focuses, one of my motives right now is
Okay.
and maybe this is dumb, so if this is a bad answer, like, don't come for me, but I really want people to feel success.
Mhm.
I'm, like, kind of in that mode right now where a lot of people don't get to feel success, and that, like, hits me at my core, like, as a kid, as a early educator, even now, like, we just launched this big movement, and it kinda, like, came from this, like, massive decision to change up a chapter of my life at the end of the year last year, and, yeah, I really just want people to, like, know what it feels like to, like,
Mhm.
win, you know?
And I believe that wholeheartedly. And that was off of one meeting. And so you saying that, audience, she believes that she really means that. Like you really
Yep.
mean that. And I definitely I appreciate that. Um, because not often you run across individuals that actually want to see other people feel or feel successful or see some form of success for themselves. And I think that you're a change agent and you're someone that can really, really help to empower people because you definitely inspired me.
Mm. Well, I'm honored. I'm so glad that we were able to connect on social, and I think this is only the beginning. We got good stuff up our sleeves. Your network is
Absolutely.
gonna have to keep their toes. Wait to see what we're gonna do next.
Absolutely, absolutely. Maybe before we got here, where can they find you? Your website, your Instagram, your TikTok, list it all.
All that stuff, friends. I am everywhere on social media, just my name, Rae Hughart. But
Mhm.
you can also, more important than connecting with me, go connect with the team, go connect with the movement. That's over at teachersdeserveit.com and everywhere teachers deserve it. You can use the hashtag teachers deserve it. Personally, one of my favorite swag pieces is like this t-shirt we had that says you deserve it. Just join the family that is committed to educators finding success. And hopefully we'll have some good surprises for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So be sure to check out teachersyoudeserveit.com and please follow Ray Hewitt on all social media platforms. And be on the lookout for more things to come between us two and her. All right.
Yes.
So until next time, what's your motive?